And a good Tuesday morning, Birds fans. Appreciate you streaming in early with us here on Birds 365. You got mcmullen, and McDonald here to hang with you for the next couple hours, and a couple of good Eagle Reporter guests coming your way. Johnny Mac, I'm going to let you pick today because for me, there are three certainly noteworthy and discussion worthy topics from the last 22 hours when last we spoke. So let you tell me which one you would prefer to start with. The loss of the irreplaceable Zach Pascal, the social media alert that a specific potential draft pick was in the city of Philadelphia yesterday. Whether he met with the Eagles or worked out with the Eagles, still to be determined. But as per his Instagram, he was spending quality time in Philly, and or the backstory to C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving the Philadelphia Eagles in his first foray with the media in Detroit. Which would you prefer to start with?
Well, what about Justin Evans? No, just kidding. For that, yeah, I would go with CJ first for a couple reasons. One, I thought he did a great job in his introductory press conference from Detroit's perspective, obviously. Um, I don't know why people get so worked up when he said Detroit was more talented than
Yeah, he
the Eagles
did.
Super Bowl team. You know, what he's trying to do is obviously ingratiate himself in his new city. I don't think he's sitting
Which,
there
oh,
looking.
by the way, and I apologize for interrupting. They eat that up here in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah.
Anytime a new athlete comes in
Oh
and
yeah.
talks glowingly of Philadelphia, oh my God, they move immediately to the top of the favorite player list. So
Yeah.
you're right, and it's a little hypocritical. If a team is like, "Hey, talk to us when you take the field," and then they say something about that, you can get an attitude about it. Not here in Philadelphia because they love that stuff. And Bryce Harper, when he came to town, he couldn't suck up fast enough to
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Well, the
He's a
Pandora in
smart dude.
Chief. Yeah, they love it. They love it. You got to be, I always got poor Donnell Pumphrey wearing his Dodgers jersey, getting killed. Um, uh, yeah. I mean, come on. I don't think CJ's watching film breaking down the full Detroit Lions. Although that's a pretty good football team. I mentioned last year Dallas Goddard said that was the best team we played. Now that was before the playoffs, before the Chiefs, obviously. But he said that was the best team we played, and he said, I don't care what anybody says. I said it on this show. It's a talented group, and I think they're ready to take the next step to win that division this upcoming year because I think Minnesota, Green Bay have taken a step back. I think Chicago's still a ways away. I think it's their division. But I mean, come on, yeah, he's just ingratiating himself to his new town. And like I said, I thought he did a great job. We talked, uh, maybe he learned something from this process and the fact that, look, people can say the Eagles disrespected him all they want. And maybe that's true, but there are 31 other teams and they disrespected him as well because he didn't get a contract anywhere else that he thought he was getting. Um, when you're in that type of situation, you got to look in the mirror and say, all right, what am I doing wrong? And I thought he was great, and he was talking about leadership, and he was talking about talking less and doing more, and all the right things. Um, and he's a good player, and it's a good signing for Detroit. So I think it was all positive from CJ's standpoint as far as an introductory press conference. But yeah, for those people upset, come on, it happens all the time, That's what you do when you go to a new city. And no, they're not more talented than the Eagles Super Bowl team, which was the most talented team in the NFL. And you could see it because they lost 10 stinking players in free agency, and they're probably still the best team in the NFC. So that tells you where the Eagles are. Although I'm looking at Dallas in that rearview mirror, man. I like some of the things. I know our buddy Tommy Lawler said yesterday, and he's probably right. Mike McCarthy will screw it up, but on the field they look pretty good. And there's a lot of talk about Bobby Wagner and where Bobby Wagner's going to go, and if the Eagles can talk Bobby Wagner into a chasing a ring, what if the Cowboys can do it? Seattle wants him back. Um, Yeah, that's going to be a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, probably one of the 2 or 3 most talented free agents still left on the market. The other thing about the CJ Gardner Johnson aftermath, which did bother me a little bit, the annoyance level with his representation because they leaked out some of the details of the negotiation they had with the Eagles. And how dare they? And they'll never sign another player with the Philadelphia Eagles when you do something like that. Please, both sides are very ready, willing, and able to leak when they believe the leak will help them. And in this, I don't know that it helped them at all because the deal was already done with CJ Gardner Johnson. So his representation decided to let off a little bit steam, maybe cover their guy in case he was going to say something in his introductory press conference. It wasn't going to come off well. And I, like you, thought he handled it quite well. But if the details are correct, and I saw them reported by Jim Trotter at the NFL Network.
By the way, can I just jump in, Jody? I don't think they're correct.
You think Jim Trotter got bad information? You think that CJ Johnson's representation are making stuff up?
No, I don't think they're making stuff up, and I couldn't confirm it. And by the way, it's not just Jim Trotter. The Inquirer put it in their story. But I'll just say from what they put on Twitter, which was obviously an innocuous trying to comp. And I asked Kevin Connors, the agent, and he hasn't gotten back to me because I'm not Jim Trotter. Maybe he has gotten back to Jim. But I will say this. I've never seen the Eagles do a deal like that. I mean, backloaded. I think he was trying to educate fans about real money versus fake money in contracts. Not necessarily that was the Eagles' contract. And if it was, and anybody out there, please tell me, I have never seen an Eagles contract structured like that with $17 million in the third year. Never in my life. Everything's front loaded because you got to get the player signed. Then you have the years on the back end, the voidable years to spread out the cap hit. I have never seen an Eagles contract like that. And if anybody out there, because, I'm getting old, please, correct me and point to one like that, because that's not how they do business. So that's number one. Number two, what you just talked about, both sides leaked for, different reasons.
Sure.
Absolutely correct. Guess who Justin Evans' agent is? Who the Eagles signed yesterday? Kevin Connor.
Okay.
Who was CJ Gardner Johnson's agent. Yeah, there's no bad blood. There's not that obviously Justin's not getting a big deal. It's probably for the veteran minimum. But if you were despised and were appalled about what Kevin Connor, you ain't doing business with him the same day, basically.
But what was the timing on it? Do you think that the deal got done first, or that the leakage of, at least the way you're saying, interpreted offer that the Eagles put out there, could one of them getting done before the other?
I mean, first of all, people are saying Kevin should be fired in this. Kevin's been an agent for over 20 years. I mean, it's not like this is his first rodeo. He's been doing it for a long time. But the tweet was weird, and we're in a social media world. I tried, like I said, to get confirmation. What I think he was trying to do is say, look, you don't understand the difference between real money. And believe me, I go through this every day. I understand his pain. A lot of fans don't realize that we saw it with Slay. The Slay's deal's still not out, and there's a reason. There's a reason for that. It's not going to look like it was reported and everybody, we got him for 3 years. No, you didn't. You might have him for 1 year. Wait and see. We're probably going to have a roster bonus on the third day of the new league year next year, and the Eagles can either give it to him if he plays really well or decline it. That's my guess. Jody.
Mm-hmm.
I make it clear. So that's just speculation. We're going to see where it is. So my thought behind it was because I have never seen, and again, I say this again, I have never seen the Eagles structure a contract like that my entire life. It doesn't make any sense. So my assumption is Kevin was trying to explain to people, look, this is the difference between real money and fake money in NFL contracts, and he put it on Twitter, which he probably shouldn't have done. That part of it is. And for whatever reason, and look, I could be wrong, but it would be the first contract the Eagles have ever done like that, to my knowledge. Can you remember one, Jody?
No, I can't, but I'm trying to figure out if it wasn't the way, if it read incorrectly, that it's got to be based on some facts, because, as you say, the agent's been around too long. He knows that it could come back and bite him in the butt if he's just making stuff up. So it's got to be based on something. Is it purely the guaranteed money in the deal?
I think
the first 2 years he's talking about the guaranteed money, and then the last year isn't guaranteed.
Because I think essentially they offered a 3-year deal for $24 million, but he then, they're not backloading $17 million on the third year. It's just not the way. And by the way, it's not just the Eagles. I mean, I don't know anybody who does things like that to good players, because you have to sign them. And what's the most important thing? The fully guaranteed money up front. That's what gets them to sign. And then you spread that out with extra years, voidable years, however you want to do it. So, yeah, I mean, I'll say this. If that was the actual contract, well, the Eagles didn't want CJ Gardner-Johnson at all.
Exactly.
And that I've been told from day one that no, we want him back. We want him back. We want him back. We want him back. So if you want him back, that's not the contract you offer. So, I always talk about Howie and contingencies. The original plan was CJ and Slay. The original plan was to get 2 of their 3 defensive backs back. And Slay wasn't a free agent, but because of his cap number, something had to be done. His cap number is $26.1 million. So the original plan was CJ and Slay, because they didn't think they could get Bradbury back, to be blunt. Then they found out that Bradbury was willing to take a little bit less, and it became Bradbury and CJ still at that point. And that's why Slay was out the door, and his wife and he tweeted that they were leaving. And then all of a sudden they got Slay to change his mind, and it became Bradbury and Slay, and then CJ was out. So that's what I was told pretty consistently. They budgeted for 2 of those 3 players, and things changed when Bradbury was willing to come back. And so it complicated things a little bit. But they always wanted CJ back. Not at that exorbitant number. You remember, Jody, I said they weren't paying him what they were going to pay Marcus Williams. I said that consistently. They think Marcus is a better player. They weren't going that high. I didn't know how high they were going to be. I thought it would be 10 or 11. Turns out they were 8 or 9.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, so if that was real, they didn't even want the players. So why do all this lip service?
So, and as you stated with Slay, the contract details haven't come out yet. At some point they will. We're never going to get the details on what the offer actual was and what the structure of it was to CJ Gardner-Johnson, because it's now water under the bridge. He's not here. There isn't a contract to be gotten through the Players Association or whatever. So it will continue to be speculation. It sounded weird to me, but I did read into that there was a number they were going to, and they weren't going past it for CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Oh, that's 100%.
And it was less than you, me, and a lot of others. You know who's not look good? And I love the website. I got it punched up right now on my computer to look up what I need. Spotrac. Because they not only are a good place to be able to go look up contracts, but prior to free agency, they stepped out on a limb and projected what a probable deal will be for players in free agency this year. They miss a lot of guys. They had a lot of guys overestimated at what kind of deal they'd be able to get.
Well, I will say this in their defense, and I'll say our buddy Brad Spielberger, who's been trying to get on the show, but he's a big star now, so we gotta work around his
busy schedule. And he'll come out.
Yeah,
Brad will come out with his.
Yeah. No, I'm being serious. I'm happy for, and in a small part, I think we've contributed. He's doing a phenomenal job. He's tremendous at valuations, and he got CJ wrong. Everybody got CJ wrong. Everybody outside the NFL got CJ Gardner-Johnson wrong. You know what I compare it to? I compare it to a draft guy who has some medical issue that we don't know about. And everybody, all the draft people have him as a top, 15 pick, and he falls to the second or third round because of this medical issue that nobody knows about because they can't know about. Everybody outside every NFL building got the CJ Gardner-Johnson valuation wrong. Not evaluation, valuation. Why? Well, people don't like it. I got killed for it. CJ even intimated it himself. There are a lot of issues, a lot of concerns about, Roman Harper, one of his former teammates, was talking about it. This guy rubs people the wrong way at times. Don't shoot the messenger, which everybody does. In the same conversation, when I was explaining this about CJ, I talked about the leadership of Darius Slay, the leadership of Brandon Graham, two guys who have giant personalities themselves, but they're positive personalities and they rub off on a positive way. But you know how people are, Jody. They go down one road. We know what that road is. The proof is in the pudding. He did not get the contract offer he was expecting. And there aren't 32 teams colluding.
Right, to hold down
CJ Gardner-Johnson's
paycheck. No, that didn't happen.
No. So take it for what it is. But he's got a chance to get right back on the market. He did everything right in that opening press conference. He's a really good player. And if it was just about play on the field, he would have gotten a $10 million. By the way, he wouldn't have gotten Marcus Williams money. He wouldn't have gotten Jesse Bates money. He's not that type of player, but he's a good player, and he should have gotten more money. And he took the right route, to be honest. Take the prove it deal, get back on the market, and say, I did it again. And now I've become this leader. I've done all the right things in Detroit, and then the contract is going to be there.
And he ingratiates himself with his new town by saying he thinks they may have a more talented roster than the Eagles.
Well, that's silly.
There's correcting the course, and then there's going over course in the other direction, which was a little bit of an overstatement. But the only thing that bums me out is that the Lions and Eagles aren't playing during the regular season. They may be playing come January, because both John and I are looking at them as potential playoff teams, but they're not scheduled to play this upcoming year, unlike last year when they played the first game of the season. All right, he's McMullen, I'm McDonald. We got two good guests coming your way a little later on the show. Special Ed. That would be Ed Kratz of Sports Illustrated is going to jump in. But coming up next, Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com. We'll get his thoughts on CJGJ, the Slay restructure, all the comings and goings. A lot of guys have gone out the door. Some key players have been retained. We'll talk Birds off season with Andrew DeCecco next here on Birds 365.